זהו, זהו, אפשר לפתוח. נקי! נקי! היה פה חדר שהייה.
I don't know if people quite understand that the CQB that you see online with teams of guys moving quickly through a structure is the type of CQB, if you want to call it that, that happens the least amount of the times. So if we're talking about from a law enforcement perspective, SWAT officers don't move quickly through a structure unless it's hostage rescue.
Opposing doors. Police department! Police, come out with your hands up! Police department! Police department! Police department! You have to lift it up. You good.
The vast majority of police officers and teams in the United States should not be moving quickly through a structure unless they're trying to rescue a hostage, although some of them still do, which I've pointed out in videos where that becomes problematic. And the big reason is because we don't actually have surprise, right?
Oh, wait! Maisha Gentry! See Atlanta police with an arrest warrant! Come to the door's coming down! Earl!
Arrest him!
Come here. Earl, wait! See Atlanta, let me see your hands, bro.
Open the door. Sheriff's office, search warrant. Open the door.
Don't you move!
Open the door.
Look out of the car! Hands up! Get on the ground! Keep your hands up!
In law enforcement, we're using our vehicles, we're knocking and announcing. People know that we're there, right? And if you don't have surprise, then you're just banking on that person who's in there not being ready and willing to hurt you. And in most cases, that works out. Also, on the combat side, to see, soldiers inside of a structure, and it's pretty obvious that if there was somebody in there, they know that you're there because it's combined arms, right? So we have tanks, we have all these assets, we have all these things going on, and it's very loud. There's just no way that a person who's ready and willing to hurt you in that situation isn't preparing themselves for you. Maybe moving quickly isn't the best thing to do until it's time to move quickly. Now, why is time a great thing for us to use? Well, because we can look at specific problems and we can choose the best solution for that specific problem. Yes, we have fundamental principles that we can adopt and we can use at a speed, but typically we want to, if we can, take time to make a decision, whether you're taking a couple seconds, whether it has to take a little bit longer, whether you're looking at a problem and say, hey, let's run the dog in there, hey, let's get the drone in there, right? Like we've seen some Israeli soldiers do.
אני רואה מקרר, יש פה מסדרון לשמאל.
So it kind of pains me to see these guys kind of make these choices in these situations. And so looking at this video, what can we kind of, make an assumption? And the first assumption is that, they have time, right? You could see one of the soldiers has his hand up against the threshold on the outside. So the posture is telling me that, maybe they've looked in there or whatever, but they're not trying to get in there and save a hostage, right? They're there to look for enemy combatants. And so that's a perfect opportunity while we're holding coverage for somebody to come behind, see what they have, and make a decision that is going to be in the best interest of the troops, right? And sometimes, again, you don't have that opportunity. And also, if you have TTPs and you have ways of doing these things, then you can flow through it and still do them this way. So I'm going to demonstrate kind of a better way to do that, because I think it's pretty obvious that we don't want to be standing right in front of a door when we open it. There's just no way to win that, right? So in that case, what happens, first guy definitely gets hit, second guy maybe tries to do something, maybe he gets hit, and now we're in a situation that we have to try and work ourselves out of. I have this set up here. It's not exactly a 1-for-1, but you get the idea. This is the doorway that they're all making entry into to get into the initial room. Down the hallway is the door that they kick open. Over here would be the upstairs, and then the downstairs here. They're not particularly concerned with the upstairs because they send 3 soldiers by it. I don't think anybody goes up there, which is fine. Maybe the top of the half of that building is gone or something. They do go downstairs, but I'll just demonstrate holding coverage upstairs, and you could just do the same holding coverage downstairs. So instead of just getting here and just going, right, we want to mitigate that risk. We don't want to stand right in front of the door. Sometimes you can't help it. It's a narrow hallway, and there's no other way, right, to get the door open, so you just have to do it. But in this case, if we're holding here, someone can come up behind and look at the problem and say, this is what we're going to do. Or if you have the information, you can get a hold of somebody, take your position, they're covering, you come by and say what you're going to do, or you could just flow through it and do it. But you have to have, a developed TTP and be able to identify it in the moment, which can happen. You just have to train it. So they're here and they've made the decision. And basically what they're going to do from here is the number 1 guy, he can go directly towards the door and hold on the door, or he can go up the stairs. But either way, the stairs and the door are getting held simultaneously. The number 3 guy is going to actually stay back here using the threshold as cover. The number 1 guy who approached the door is going to look back towards the guy at the threshold, indicate he's ready for the door to come open. And quite simply, he is going to kick open the door, staying away from the threshold, and allow the soldier who is at the threshold they initially walked into have first eyes into the room. And then from there, of course, if you wanted to have the soldier who is at the initial threshold advance because he can see it, he can do it that way. Or the soldier that's at that threshold already can start to scan it and enter. Either one is not necessarily wrong. But again, we want to identify and mitigate risk. And when we have the time, whether it's a few seconds or a minute, or hey, we're going to send a dog, or hey, we're going to send a drone in here and see, we wanted to be able to do those things, right? We utilize speed and violence of action, right, all the time when it's appropriate to do so. In law enforcement, that's when it's hostage rescue. And in combat situations with soldiers, they know you're there, right? There's no denying that these enemy combatants know that you're there. And so speed in certain situations, although necessary, isn't always going to be the best option.
Modern CQB principles were developed by Special Forces operators specifically for hostage rescue situations. Speed is a necessary component to that particular mission set. Whether in a combat zone or law enforcement CQB setting, speed is still influenced by a number of other factors, which include complacency, not understanding alternatives, equipment, or simply not wanting to spend the time necessary to handle individual problems. A level of cover or concealment is better than none because it's simply going to make it harder for the opposition to hit you. Whether that influences their actual ability from a marksmanship perspective, the fact that rounds tend to do things when they hit objects before they get to you, or an increase in the time it takes them to locate you, which in turn may buy you the time you need to get to them. You can have all the marksmanship abilities in the world, but if you're standing in front of a door when it comes open, your ability might not mean a whole lot. You should consider tapping on this photo to subscribe and check out this video because YouTube is recommending it specifically for you.